观众朋友们好，欢迎大家来到本期的思想先驱报节目现场。三中全会下周正式召开啊，现在各种各样的智库也好，媒体也好，对于三中全会的政策预期和希望可以说是层出不穷。我们在相关节目中啊，也为大家进行了介绍。那我特别关注到的呢是亚洲学会中国问题研究中心2位资深的中国分析专家钱静先生以及牛奔先生尼尔托马斯先生发表的一篇文章，对于三中全会的一些可能出现的改革进行了预期。特别值得注意的是呢，他们之前呢与中国的一些我们叫做前官员，或者是与中国体制内直接有接触的一些人士进行了交流，所以整篇的文章的内容可以说是非常丰富，超过了其他很多同类智库泛泛而谈的分析。在今天节目之后呢，我们也会把整篇文章的全文提供给我们的观众朋友们共参考。在今天的节目中我们为大家介绍这样的一个报告中的一些让我觉得眼前一亮的观察角度。首先呢，这个文章就讲到了一件事情，就是大家对于78年的这一次三中全会认为是改革开放的开端，实际上呢是有评价过高的嫌疑，把它传奇化，其实呢并不符合历史的现实。为什么呢？因为这一次三中全会其实是通过了1个多月前11月的中央工作会议批准的这样的一个政策。那么整个全会甚至是没有提到改革开放这个词改革开放是在多年之后才逐渐演变出了这样的一个情况，这样的一个结构。所以说这个三中全会是历史性的转折这个话呢可能有一点言过其实了。1984年的三中全会呢是把经济改革从农村扩展到了城市地区。在1988年的时候，因为我们知道当时呢是出现了通货膨胀的问题，结果呢整个强调的是稳定为主。江泽民时代的第一次三中全会呢是在1993年通过的是前年14次党代会通过的建立社会主义市场经济的决定。胡锦涛呢是2003年开始的任期，在那一次的三中全会上呢，那么主要呢这个没有什么特别值得大家记得住的这样的一些改革，但是呢，在2008年的第3次全会上是解决了所谓的农村发展的相关的问题所谓的农村工作问题。那么在2017年到2022年第19届中央委员会的任期之内习近平没有举行过以经济政策为重点的全会。第19次的这样的一个第3次全会呢，在2018年通过的是经常是2中全会才讲的话题，就国务院领导班子的任命和机构改革，包括取消宪法对于国家主席的任期限制等等等等。之后19届第4次全会呢是在2019年10月召开的。那么整个在习近平时期，我们说这个会议的日程就有点打乱了。历史学家说三中全会是具有开创性意义的，现在我们看来其实有一点言过其实，而更多的三中全会其实更多的是某一种我们叫做呼号这样的一种阶级号，而不是真正意义上具体的某一种经济上的指令。特别有意思的是三中全会从1978年开始以来为大家所关注。最重要的一次可能是习近平时期的三中全会，这是2013年11月第18届中央委员会第3次全会。这一次全会上呢，特别提出了一个概念，叫做全面深化改革。那我们说2013年提出全面深化改革，现在还叫全面深化改革，看来原来这个改革还有继续可以全面继续可以深化的余地。当时2013年的全会，如果大家有印象实际上是引发了非常大的对于经济改革的乐观。为什么呢？胡锦涛时代派系冲突非常的复杂整个政策非常的停滞，腐败很猖獗。当时呢，习近平时代出了第1个全会的规定，特别讲到市场在资源配置中要发挥决定性的作用，之前叫基础性的作用，并且呢，承诺在利率在产权在金融市场外商投资等等领域进行改革，让大家觉得眼前一亮。但是现在我们看11年过去了，怎么评价2013年全会的这些决定在执行层面上做得如何呢？ 那么用这个2位作者的话说，叫喜忧参半。有一些承诺已经实现了，比如结束独生子女政策，减少企业审批的一些繁文缛节，现在有了非常大的改善，包括市场化对能源定价啊，允许私营企业私营银行在更多的领域进行部署和业务，在利率自由化呀，在环境保护气候行动方面都有了长足的进步。但是也有一些这个当时提出的改革方案，要么是被淡化了，要么就是见不到人影了。比如引入房地产税，当时就提出了，现在还没引入，未来不知道什么时候会引入包括提高退休年龄，当时提出了，现在没动静，未来怎么样不知道。包括当时提出的对于领导干部的强制的财务披露，提出了，现在也没有实现。而在过去的11年里如果让大家觉得最失望的是，非但感觉不到好像市场在经济中发挥了决定性的作用，好像党在经济中的作用更为决定性了。这是大家对于2013年的这样的一次全会的这样的一个评价。但是作者就指出说，实际上呢，2013年的这次全会意义非凡，不仅仅是他宣布了什么样的经济改革，到底实现了怎样的经济改革，而是他为习近平的某一种这个政治地位奠定了一个基础。首先是建立了现在的叫做中央全面深化改革委员会，这是个机制性的这样的一个建立。还有现在蔡奇堂的这个国家安全委员会那么还有呢中央军事改革领导小组等等等等。同时呢，也是加强了中央纪委的权威。所以与其说它是在经济上惊天动地的一次变化，不如说是为习近平未来机构改革、制度改革以及整个我们叫做统治一盘局的这样的一个建立有这样的一个我们叫做机制性上的保证怎么样看待这个观点？首先，1978年的这次改革被过誉了，历届三中全会不是宣布具体的经济政策，往往是某一种党内的节记号。习近平时期2013年的这一次改革反而是经济信号最明确的，但是在最近几年，由于这个会议的日程出现了更加松动、更加不确定性，经济改革没有登上三中全会的议程，因此对2024年的这一次三中全会，大家又是充满了期待。
首先这2位的这个上一次的观察这个大概几个月以前嘛，我看了一次，我觉得他们好像就是一个聊天式的，把一些不确定的或者确定的信息给呈现大家，也不是一个学术论文，也不是一个严肃的报告，但是你看起来很过瘾，你会知道这个信息的后面隐藏了他们的一种努力试图想接近中国的决策的这种思路的这样一种方法。这种方法呢，比那些比较学术性的、规划性的、比较深刻的文章实际上更具有实在的性质。当然了，西方还流传一种就是存在的主观意识形态的一种对中国的这个研究，这个是没办法的虽然这个作者提出来11届三中全会被夸大了，这是一个非常具有动静的观察，我完全同意。实际上，中国的改革开放在1972年，就是我讲过很多次，就是尼克森、基辛格美国为什么在改革开放中间扮演了非常重要的角色？如果美中关系不改善，中国的改革开放在邓小平时代很难真正的顺利进行，因为美国在前就是一个关键性的一个角色，就像古巴一样的，对吧？他跟中国关系好和他跟美国的关系好是2个完全不一样的这个量级。实际上，很多的老干部的平反、老干部的恢复工作，很多人开始到海外来，就是从这个美中关系开始改善就开始了。三中全会实际上是一个标志性的事情，但是你怎么改呢？你改不了了。就像欧美的早一段时间纪念这个诺曼底登陆一样的，诺曼底登陆是人类一个非常伟大的一个壮观的一个登陆，对吧？但是你给你的感觉就是没有诺曼底登陆，整个欧洲战场德国人就怎么样但是实际上呢，你看一下数字，整个欧美的盲军加在一起这个美国和英国的盲军加在一起，整个消灭这个德国的军队是20%，80%是苏联是要消灭的。但是你这没办法，历史它已经成为了一个符号。当然，第二个动静就是他认为的2013年的三中全会很重要，但是他忽视，也许不是他们忽视那实际上为什么就变成一个烂尾工程或者半烂尾工程的原因很简单，实际上中国的这个体制习近平花了非常多的时间在解决人事的问题。这个人事大家觉得，哎呀，习近平权力很集中了，但你要知道，整个的中国的这个运作系统是一个巨大的庞大的一个机器，所以 我在19大里提出来，我想习近平的敌人不是某个人，是整个庞大的这个机器，他可以通过抓一些贪官，抓一些他的政敌啊，来巩固他的这种权威性，但是整个体制没办法运行起来。那么而且呢，2013年更多的是一种混合型的改革方案。什么叫混合型的改革方案呢？既有习近平的想法，也有李克强的想法，甚至还有王岐山的想法，很多还是前代所延续下来的问题。那么习近平掌握权力，其实是以20大为根本标志。20大就是说，总理是他说了算，其他人士也是由他说了算，而不是像之前的19大、18大是大家拼起来的。他虽然习近平有了主导性的角色，但是不是绝对的。20大就是绝对了。基本上出了问题，你不能去挂李克强，也不能挂江泽民，更不能挂胡锦涛，那就是你习近平了。所以这一次的三中全会之所以非常的重要，它可能有一部分内容是重复了2013年的没有完成的一些内容，或者是根据时间来调整和改变的内容。但是呢，这是习近平真正的标志，是习近平第一个完整的习近平的这个经济纲领。
那我们就说这个三中全会每一次的这个草案的起草人到底是谁，大家也特别关注。那比如说在这个温家宝在这个胡温时期，那是总理作为这个主起草人，在习近平时期呢，他自己是，还有2个副手，一个叫做刘云山，一个叫张高丽。但这个挂名的副手是不是真的副手呢？这个就很难说了。
不是。
那么其实是谁呢？其实是刘鹤在之前的一次三中全会的这样的一个草案中起到了主要执笔的这样的一个作用。那么这一次我们看到也有挂名的起草人，挂名的起草人到底是不是实际的操刀人？怎么看待这个问题？
对，好问题。因为中国的这个官僚体制它挂很多名字，比如说很多委员会什么这个主席那个副主席一大的名字，其实大家知道，基本挂名的只有一个人是真正干活，就是最后一个名字比如说委员里面最后一名这个秘书长可能就是他在干活干活的人呢，他也许是起草者还是怎么样他地位未必那么高甚至呢他的名字也未必能够靠前，但是他实际上是干活的。如果一般来讲，三中全会的这个文件的主要起草者，习近平是一个当然另外一个人就是王沪宁李强呢相对来讲比较弱一点就是根据我们现在权力的序列来看，但是是不是政策研究室值得很怀疑，因为这个政策研究室的这个水平实在是太差王沪宁这个人嘛，他就是说自己这个三朝这个围城，但是呢，他把其他的一些有想法的知识分子也排除在外，只剩下他了那么他自己的一个弟子也到了这个人民大学，不知道具体谁是起草，我真的是不知道但是呢，这个不管是谁起草都是习近平的真正的想法。
所以我们可以看到更多有关于习近平对于中国经济未来的某一些部署同时呢，这一篇文章还引述中国一位前高级官员的话透露这一次三中全会上有惊喜。那这些惊喜不会是一个大爆炸式的惊喜，可能是某一种温和的渐进式的，是需要一个时间才能够实现的。那么到底在哪一些领域可能会出现新的政策动态或者是新的政策风向呢？首先一点，大家可能都猜到了，新质生产力有关于高科技卡脖子的问题。最重要的一个政策信号可能是什么呢？就是市场力量和私营部门的重要的作用。这是一个非常有趣的这样的一个政策信号，因为我们知道之前的几年想到习近平时期的政策，大家想到的是党管一切国进民退，但是呢，习近平可能会强调要强化企业在科技创新中的主体地位，促进私营企业的发展壮大，同时也会消除妨碍私营企业参与公平市场竞争的障碍。可能会对于民营经济和私营企业有这样的一个我们叫做这个提振的一个信号。明先生有话要说。
对，新质生产力这个词大家听起来就有一点心理距离感，因为根本搞不清它什么意思。即使如果你仔细听这个《思想先驱报》李奇博士介绍的一些文章，你连贯起来考虑，新质生产力就是高新科技的产业化、生态化。这个词大家就可以比较理解了。所以后面什么市场经济什么私营企业参与什么国家去挣点福祉就会相应的进行配置而来。
与此配套的是什么呢？就是国企的改革。国企到底怎样改革呢？首先可能会建立现代公司治理制度，另外呢就是国有资本管理制度啊，对于整个国企的预算收入、利润和股息都有一个更加明确的这样的一个框架。还有啊，就是所谓的建立全国统一市场，协调区域发展。那么之前啊，王沪宁在一次讲话上讲到了，说现在呀，这个堵点还没有打通，什么意思呢？啊，不管是地方保护主义的一些壁垒要消除啊，整合城市集群，还是现在提到的降低物流成本，还是建立全国统一电网等等等等，这呢，可能是叫做进行市场化生产要素革新的重要的一部分。北京的一个内部人士也向他们透露说，这一次呢还有可能会进一步的推进市场化生产要素的释放，包括什么？第一，对于数据的交易可能会进行某一种松绑；第二呢，就是对于农村的土地交易可能会进行某一种松绑。公共所有权进入要素市场，而不是产品市场，这也是重要的一方面，就是关于全国一盘棋，打通各个地方的堵点。还有一点是什么呢？就是财税改革以及有关于金融风险的管理。这个其实防止金融风险，习近平一直在强调，特别是在2015年、2016年的股市崩盘之后。但是现在呢，我们看到2020年开始搞三条红线啊，整个房地产行业去杠杆的时候，给金融风险又增加了新一重的压力。最大的维度、最大困难的地方是什么呢？是地方政府的这样的一些财政困境。那么接下来可能会怎么办呢？2023年底的时候，习近平在这个年底的中央工作会议上要强调，叫规划新一轮的财税制改革，要建立新的房地产的发展模式。可能出现的变化，首先就是我们之前讲到的对于一些税制的改革，比如消费税和增值税，当然这个时间是比较长的，房地产税更是遥遥无期。还有就是我们之前讲到的，用中央的债务来置换地方的债务，所谓的以时间换空间，这可能是现在对于地方债务化解和防范地方债务导致进一步金融风险的举措。还有一点就是可能会加强对于风险投资和对于高科技行业耐心资本的支持。耐心资本这个词，我们之前在思想先驱报中也讲到了很多。我们就说呀，对于整个金融系统的变革，并不是要打散整个金融企业、金融系统，而是要让整个金融系统对于习近平真正想要的事情形成某一种财力上、资源上的支撑。在这一点上，大家可能会看到不管是在有关于这个对冲基金也好，还是我们说的风险资本、风投也好，来进入习近平希望发展的高新生产力的这些高科技领域，反而可能会有松绑的这样的一个现象。还有呢，就是我们看到的有关于地方政府可能在医疗保健方面的支出，在国家养老金方面的支出，可能会引入相应的税制改革特别是由中央的财力来接管一部分，让整个地方政府在社会福利和所谓人民获得感这一方面能够更有所进益习近平在之前济南的这一次会议上讲到说要多做有益于民生、温暖人心、顺益民意的实事特别讲到几个方面：就业、教育、医疗、住房，还有呢就是我们现在经常讲到人口问题、育儿。那么可能怎么做呢？比如说这个激励生育或者是降低养育成本呢，可能会有相应的措施。还有就是放宽户籍制度，可能会有进一步的措施。特别重要的一个词就是获得感，这就涉及到了我们之前在思想先驱报为大家讲到的一个问题，就是说这个经济现在情势不好了，大家认为到底是自己的问题还是社会的问题？需要让大家有一种获得感，让你对于自己的生活，对于整个的这个经济体制是有一种满足感的，让他觉得有这样的一种基本的公平的需求得到了这样的一个我们叫做一个所属感。怎么看待这一系列改革，何明先生？
首先3人全会还要强调一点，它是个纲领性的会，它是时间拉得比较长，甚至可以说呢，习近平的这个下台之前或者退休之前的一个主要的经济纲领。如果我的揣测没有错的话呢，20届3人全会重点是解决经济战略的问题，而21大的3人全会有可能会涉及到政治体制的重新塑造的问题，那个太遥远了，先不讲，先讲这个经济发展的这个战略的框架。那么按照习近平的想法呢，我们要啃硬骨头了，也就是说 真正的一些比较深层次的问题，在这一次可能是会提出纲领性的解决。这些纲领性的解决，如果用非常通俗的话来讲呢，就解决3个问题。第一，贫富差距的问题，就是社会保障体系、老人的照顾、弱势团体。第二个呢是城乡差距的问题，那解决农村的基本上的农业化的问题。中国现在叫农民、农村，还有一个是农业，一个意义上是没有农业的啊，因为都是小农经济，是这个千百年来所形成的，不像美国这样已经是规模化的农场，中国不是啊，中国是毛泽东时代啊搞了一个莫名其妙的饿死人的人民公社，邓小平时代啊实行了人的前所未有的均田制，对吧？每个人都是几亩地，这是一个非常低效的一个无能的，可以解决温饱问题，而不能解决产业的问题。这一次要解决产业的问题，产业的问题，比如说涉及到产权、农业土地、失去土地的农民的照顾的问题，和不愿意放弃农民的土地的农民的他未来要加入到这个农业化的过程中，他怎么办？你比如说土地这个李奇博士是一直在外面读书啊，未必了解这个农村的这个土地啊。我在80年代的时候，特别跟一批教授，现在都是教授，当时不是教授啊。那么我们一起做这个农村调查，就发现这个农田呢，比如说它整个地方是5亩地，5亩地可能是3户人家，3户人家都要。我要水啊，他也要水，他也要水，他也要什么东西，所以呢，他这个共享的资源非常非常之少，各自有一套自己的生态体系，成本就非常高。农业化的话，就必须要把它打通，就是5亩地或者100亩地都连成一片，才能走向机械化，才能走向产业化。但是你这个产权卡在手里啊，怎么办呀？对吧？你怎么去？第一，表面上是政府的，但实际上已经挪付到了这个农民，这个里面的障碍是非常之大的。农民的想法，有的人就是我要土地，对吧？有的人我不要土地，你给我钱，对吧？有的人就是说我长期收利息就可以了。有很多很多的不同的想法，都应该有一套配套的措施在运行。如果中国的农村的改造成功了，台湾就是一个非常成功的例子，美国就是一个非常成功的例子。中国能不能走向农业化？一旦走向农业化，中国的农民就不会的这个拖累整个的这个发展，同时呢，农民受到不公平的待遇也会得到改变，人口的流动和户籍的解决也可以这个进行。还有一个就是区域差别，区域差别就是看到习近平去西南，对吧？去这个西北之前去了东北，这几个地方是经济发展最落后的几个区，这一次肯定就是一个重心的地方，也是符合当年赵子阳的时候他们的最开始的发展战略。现在沿海地区、深圳这些地方接近港澳台的地区，搞4个台区，然后海南台区，然后江苏这个浙江、山东这边的这个发展，那现在呢一直往内陆的方向走，走得比较缓慢，因为老是希望想这个地方好挣钱嘛，浙江人很厉害嘛，江苏很厉害嘛，就忽视了内陆地方的发展。这个呢有一个非常重要的基础，这个完全是阴差阳错造成的，就是在毛泽东时代，他把经济是内陆化了，然后呢，这个邓小平时代呢是把经济沿海化了，现在沿海和内陆的这个经济形成了一个汇合点，这个汇合点，无论是在西南、西北和东北，都有一个重要的一个点，其实李奇博士已经跟大家讲过很多次，比如说东北。我们看到的东北人就是没有希望，但是实际上东北有很多重要的基础，尤其是人工智能的发展、芯片的发展，都为下一步的改革开放提供一些新的动力源。怕一个地方的经济达到一定程度以后，它之所以实行停滞，他就没办法有地方挖坑，你知道吗？现在东北、西北和西南提供了新的挖坑机会。
有地方有挖坑机会，有的地方是这个负面的话叫请君入瓮这个正面的话叫做开放大门，提高对外开放的高水平程度，为新质生产力的发展创造良好的国际环境。这个话用人话怎么说呢？内部人士透露给2位作者，中国呢很有可能会进一步的缩短外商投资的负面清单，原本的一些外商不能投的领域，现在允许你到中国来投了；原本一些你的股权结构有限制的领域，可能现在有更多的这样的一些发展空间，包括所谓的高质量的服务行业、医疗器材生物制药以及一系列的高科技产业。 那么同时在中国现在的自由贸易区，现在已经是不止原来最开始1978年那几个自由贸易区了，有更多的这些自由贸易区可能会有进一步的松绑对于更多的外资服务的进入。为什么要这么做呢？希望这些高科技的跨国公司可以通过在中国国内进行本地的生产、本地的培训、本地的人才的培养，包括本地的技术的培训，让中国成为整个世界企业的大实验田和这样的一个既是原产地又是大市场又是挣钱的空间的这样的一片基地来到中国发展。尽管可能中国最终的目标仍然是培养出本土的优质企业，超越这些外国的竞争对手，但是就像当时引入了特斯拉这一只鲶鱼一样，未来可能中国有好多只鲶鱼一起在自贸区游动。
我觉得赞扬一下李杰博士吧，就是最开始特斯拉引入的时候，我们是2年以前多少年以前做这个节目李杰博士就反复强调这是鲶鱼效应，鲶鱼效应。在后来的事实证明呢，这确实是一个很有远见的一个想法。谈到开放这个程度呢，我认为三中全会可能还会有这个词，但是重心已经不是在开放了，因为开放已经不是个问题，你们来我可以开放给你们，但是最重要的是把外商变成内商，就变成整个的国内的一个大循环的一个鲶鱼效应的一个部分，而不是把经济寄托在这个外商。为什么呢？因为中国对国际局势的发展比较悲观，比较的不像雇主那样抱有一个期待我把产品出去或者是产品进来，我的市场就会搞好，而不会。这一次更重要的重心还是改革，改变自己，也就是呢所谓讲的这个国内大循环。但是这个国内大循环别误会了是锁起门来，不是这样，而只是说它的重心是在内部的内修，而不是呢依赖于国际市场。这个改变它不会这么明显，但是你将会看到这一点。当然它最终的目的是建立在2035年的一个目标，这个目标是建立一个他认为的一个创新型的市场经济体系。
好，谢谢何明先生的点评。整篇报告分相当多的章节，那么不仅仅是我们刚才提到的经济层面的变化对于有关于党的制度的建设，对于人事方面的变化也进行了相应的分析。那么在今天节目之后我们也为大家完整的呈现这一篇来自这样我们一个非常尊重的2位智库的分析者的报告，让大家看一看三中全会可能会出现怎样的情况。好了，以上就是本期思想先驱报的全部内容，下期我们再会。
谢谢。
Anticipation is growing for one of the most important events in Chinese politics this year. On June 27th, General Secretary Xi Jinping chaired a meeting of the 24-man Politburo that announced the 20th Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, will hold its third plenum in Beijing on July 15th to 18th. A plenum is a plenary meeting of the committee's 205 members and 171 non-voting alternate members. The meeting is important because the Central Committee will issue an authoritative decision, Juting, that will guide policymaking for years to come. The document will center on further comprehensively deepening reform and advancing Chinese-style modernization amid concerns both at home and abroad about the party's ability to steward China's economic, geopolitical, and social development. However, expectations should be modest. Historically, third plenums are often overrated as catalysts for transformational change and instead introduce plans that expand on existing policy themes. Xi Jinping's first third plenum in 2013 appeared unusually ambitious, raising hopes for economic and political liberalization, but its true significance was in enabling Xi Jinping's centralization of power. The policy signals for this month's plenum suggest a strong emphasis on Xi Jinping's goals of achieving technological self-reliance, addressing financial risks, streamlining central-local relations, and improving social welfare. There are also hints that Beijing may try to ease conditions for private firms and foreign investors in high-tech sectors, as well as efforts to enhance internal party governance. Additionally, several previously sacked officials are expected to lose their seats on the Central Committee. Title I, History, third plenums are overrated for transformational reforms. Many China watchers ascribe a mythological quality to third plenums. Hopes for the unveiling of momentous reforms at these events have been high since the third plenum of the 11th Central Committee in December 1978. Party history venerates this meeting as the launch of former paramount leader Deng Xiaoping's market-oriented reform and opening of China's economy. However, this legendary plenum mostly rubber-stamped policies approved by a central work conference a month prior in November, when Deng cemented his political ascendancy over Hua Guofeng, the designated successor to Mao Zedong and the party's titular leader from 1976 to 1981. The plenum did not even mention reform and opening, an agenda that evolved over many years. Few other third plenums compare, see Table 1. The 1984 gathering extended economic reforms from rural to urban areas. But, in 1988, the party re-emphasized stability and soft-pedaled price and wage reforms due to rampant inflation. The first of the Jiang Zemin era, in 1993, consolidated Deng's post-Tiananmen reform revival by implementing the decision taken at the 14th Party Congress the previous year to establish a socialist market economy. Hu Jintao began his tenure with a third plenum in 2003, where structural reforms were blocked by vested interests in the government and state-owned enterprises, SOEs. The 1998 and 2008 third plenums addressed rural development. Xi Jinping did not hold a plenum focused on economic policy during the 19th Central Committee's term from 2017 to 2022. The 19th Third Plenum in February 2018 covered topics usually associated with a second plenum, State Council leadership appointments and institutional reforms. It followed a special second plenum in January 2018 that discussed constitutional amendments, including the removal of term limits for Xi Jinping's role as President of the People's Republic of China. The 19th Fourth Plenum convened 20 months later, in October 2019, to address governance issues. History suggests that analysts often overrate the importance of a third plenum. Only the 1978 edition was a truly path-breaking moment, and that was for political rather than economic reasons. Subsequent third plenums introduced policies that helped to improve China's economic governance, but they typically implemented reform directives that party leaders had already outlined. All in all, Xi Jinping is unlikely to fundamentally change course at the 20th Third Plenum. Title 2, Context. Xi Jinping's first third plenum was an economic feint for political ends. The most notable third plenum since 1978 was probably the first of Xi Jinping's reign, the third plenum of the 18th Central Committee, held in November 2013. Xi Jinping later compared the two plenums, describing them both as epoch-making events, with the former launching Deng's era of reform and opening and the latter launching Xi Jinping's new era of comprehensively deepening reform. The 2013 plenum generated significant optimism about economic reform, especially after the factional conflicts, policy stasis, and rampant corruption of the Hu era. Many observers identified the highlight of the plenum's decision on several major issues concerning comprehensively deepening reform as a pledge that markets would now play a decisive rather than just a fundamental role in resource allocation. The lengthy document promised liberalization in areas such as interest rates, property rights, financial markets, and foreign investment. Xi Jinping's record on implementing the 2013 plenum decision is mixed. Promises fulfilled include ending the one-child policy, reducing business red tape, enacting more market-based energy prices, strengthening competition policy, permitting private banks, making progress on interest rate liberalization, and institutionalizing environmental protection and climate action. Many proposals, however, were also abandoned or diluted, such as introducing a property tax, raising the retirement age, allowing a larger role for NGOs, and experimenting with compulsory financial disclosures for leading cadres. Most importantly, over the last 11 years, Xi Jinping has enhanced rather than diminished the role of the party state in China's economy. What the 2013 plenum decision effectively did was lay the groundwork for Xi Jinping's political dominance. It established what is now the Central Comprehensively Deepening Reform Commission, CCDRC, the powerful body that coordinates Xi Jinping's domestic policy agenda, and the Central National Security Commission, which helped him to control the security apparatus and bring his current right-hand man, Kai Chi, to Beijing. It provided the justification a few months later for founding the Central Cyberspace Affairs Commission, which Xi Jinping used to both censor and weaponize the Internet, and the Central Leading Group for Military Reform, which coordinated his sweeping military reorganization in 2015. It also bolstered the authority of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, CCDI, turbocharging Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign by enabling the party's internal watchdog to embed inspection groups in party-state agencies. Xi Jinping also made a concerted effort to wrest control of economic policy from then-Premier Li Keqiang, a political rival with a more Deng-like approach to reform and opening. Xi Jinping himself led the decisions drafting team, a role held by Li's predecessor, Wen Jiabao, in 2003 and 2008. His drafting deputies were Liu Yunshan and Zhang Gaoli, but the de facto team leader was reportedly Xi Jinping's economic czar, Liu He. Xi Jinping was also the first CCP General Secretary to deliver an official explanation of a decision, which hinted at his more statist economic outlook. His most telling lines were, "We must still insist on giving full play to the superiority of our socialist system and to the active role of the party and the government. The market plays a decisive role in the allocation of resources, but by no means does it play a total role." In retrospect, Xi Jinping's first third plenum can be seen as an economic feint to advance political objectives. It occurred in the early days of Xi Jinping's leadership, when he was only the first among equals on the Politburo Standing Committee, and his colleagues and rivals still held some power and influence. But he played his hand well and used promises of economic reform to justify the creation of political institutions that ultimately helped him to dominate Zhongnanhai. Xi Jinping's consolidation of power means the policies outlined at this year's third plenum are far more likely to reflect Xi Jinping's true economic priorities. Title 3, Policy, What to Expect at this third plenum. Policymaking at the 20th third plenum will follow more of a political logic than an economic logic. Xi Jinping says he adopted the phrase comprehensively deepening reform out of a desire not to promote reform in one area, but to promote reform in all areas. His reforms aim to advance the modernization of China's governance system and capacity writ large, a theme articulated at the 2013 and 2019 plenums. His top goal for this plenum is not to revive growth but to continue his political project. The plenum's decision advanced Xi Jinping's established priorities. He says that further comprehensively deepening reform will support his signature strategy of high-quality development, which he introduced at the 19th Party Congress in 2017 and detailed at the 20th Party Congress in 2022. This refers to a shift in the focus of economic policy from rapid growth to quality growth and includes a new development concept that seeks more innovative, coordinated, green, open, and equitable growth, as well as a new development paradigm that promotes domestic markets, indigenous technology, and foreign dependencies on China. Chinese-style modernization is the party-centric methodology that Xi Jinping introduced at the 20th Party Congress to achieve China's national rejuvenation as a country that leads the world in comprehensive national power and international influence. However, while Xi Jinping is unlikely to significantly change his priorities at the plenum, his political interests may be causing him to pay more attention to the economy. The rare admission in his New Year speech that some enterprises had a tough time and some people had difficulty finding jobs and meeting basic needs implies that he both knows about and wants to address the prevailing pessimism in Chinese society, at least to some extent. That speech came just a fortnight after Xi Jinping first mentioned the topic of further comprehensively deepening reform and advancing Chinese-style modernization at the Central Economic Work Conference in December 2023. Economic growth is no longer Beijing's singular priority, but Xi Jinping may recognize that national security and tech self-reliance must coexist with a baseline level of growth that sustains consumption, investment, social stability, and his own political security. Senior economic official Han Wenxiu penned a plenum preview article that emphasized Xi Jinping's pledge for China to become a moderately developed country by 2035, a benchmark usually associated with a per capita GDP of at least $20,000. This target would require Beijing to achieve an average annual economic growth rate of almost 5% until 2035, which is wildly ambitious but shows that leaders still want to raise living standards. Xi Jinping may be contemplating new ideas to help achieve this balance. In a December speech, he said that reform and opening is an important magic weapon and a key move in determining the success or failure of Chinese-style modernization. While Xi Jinping is not a reformer in the Western sense, or even in the Deng sense, he does want to make the party state a more effective organization for building a powerful country with a resilient economy and a stable society. In other words, Xi Jinping only backs the aspects of reform and opening that overlap with his plans to reshape China's economy. Xi Jinping will continue to prioritize party control, financial de-risking, technological self-reliance, and investment-heavy industrial policy. But he could deliver positive surprises, in the words of a former senior official whose CCA met in Beijing, to tackle issues such as weak productivity, geo-economic restrictions, a struggling property sector, and the fiscal distress of local governments. Any such surprises, however, will be modest and will emphasize incremental improvements rather than sudden breakthroughs. Subtitle: Centrality of New Quality Productive Forces. Science and Technology, SNT, will be at the heart of the third plenum. On June 24, Xi Jinping told a National Science and Technology Conference, NSTC, that Chinese-style modernization depends on SNT modernization as a support and high-quality development depends on SNT innovation to foster new momentum. Xi Jinping sees the world experiencing a new round of SNT revolution and industrial change centered on cross-cutting technologies, such as artificial intelligence, quantum technology, and biotechnology. But he also believes that high technology has become the frontline and main battleground of international competition, and some key core technologies are controlled by others, so Beijing must enhance its innovation capabilities to seize the high ground of SNT competition and future development. Xi Jinping wants to build China into a science and technology great power by 2035, with world-leading S&T capabilities and innovation abilities that achieve a high level of self-reliance and a holistic leap in our economic power, defense power, and comprehensive national power. He believes the party must enhance its policy-making command system and organizational implementation system to strengthen top-level design and overall planning of S&T policies, markets, and industries. He highlighted bottlenecks and constraints in chips, software, seeds, advanced materials, machine tools, and scientific research instruments as top priorities for industrial self-reliance. The elevated status of S&T is reflected in the New Quality Productive Forces, NQPF, concept that Xi Jinping introduced in September 2023 and called an inherent requirement of high-quality development. In a speech to the Politburo on January 31, Xi Jinping defined NQPF as those for which innovation plays a leading role and that are catalyzed by revolutionary breakthroughs in technology, innovative allocations of factors of production, and the deep transformation and upgrading of industry. They are also green productive forces that necessitate optimizing the economic policy toolbox to support green and low-carbon development, including in innovation, industry, and finance. The core measure of NQPF is a significant increase in total factor productivity, which would address both China's economic problem of slowing growth and its strategic problem of dependency on Western technology. Therefore, this third plenum will prominently feature reforms focused on advancing S&T innovation and developing NQPF. These are likely to include significant resources for basic research and product development in key common technologies, frontier leading technologies, modern engineering technologies, and disruptive technologies. Another major focus will be industrial policies that aim to transform and upgrade traditional industries, cultivate and grow emerging industries, and plan and build future industries. Policy advisors in Beijing suggested to CCA that other reforms will likely center on improving incentive structures to spur cutting-edge innovation in risk-averse S&T institutions, better reward individual contributions to innovation, attract international high-tech talent, and deter intellectual property violations. Xi Jinping's focus on high-end manufacturing continues to privilege supply-side growth, which contributes to subduing domestic consumption and creating excess capacity. Chinese policymakers recently told CCA that they see no such thing as overcapacity in green industries such as batteries, electric vehicles, and solar panels that are at the center of current US-China trade wars. Exports are also driving growth in China, given weak consumer confidence and property sector troubles, further reducing incentives to reduce production. It is possible that Western tariffs rise to such a level that Beijing is willing to manage overcapacity, but the third plenum agenda will likely exacerbate trade tensions. After all, Beijing has non-market considerations, such as domestic employment and geo-economic security, that contribute to overcapacity. Subtitle: Strategic Utilization of Market Forces and the Private Sector. The most intriguing policy signals ahead of the plenum suggest the possibility of more pro-business policies that further Xi Jinping's goals for science, technology, innovation, and industry. Xi Jinping used his NSTC speech to say for the first time that the party should give full play to the decisive role of the market in the allocation of S&T resources. He also wants to strengthen the status of enterprises as the main body of S&T innovation and says that further comprehensively deepening reform involves promoting the development and growth of private firms and eliminating obstacles restricting the fair participation of private firms in market competition. His Politburo speech in January is worth quoting at length. Developing new quality productive forces requires further comprehensively deepening reform and the formation of new types of relations of production that are compatible with them. New quality productive forces not only require unprecedented planning and guidance and scientific policy support from the government, but also constant innovation in market mechanisms and regulations and in microeconomic agents such as enterprises. They are formed by the joint cultivation and propulsion of the government's visible hand and the market's invisible hand. Therefore, we should deepen reform of the economic system and of the science and technology system, strive to remove choke points that restrict the development of new quality productive forces, establish a high-standard market system, and bring forth new ideas for modes of allocating factors of production, so that all kinds of advanced and high-quality factors of production can flow toward the development of new quality productive forces. Of course, the 2013 plenum shows that actions speak louder than words, but Xi Jinping's greater authority today means that his words are more likely to reflect policy directions. The quotes above suggest that he is not oblivious to the value of markets or private firms. On May 23, he listened to policy briefings from business executives and reform-minded economists in Jinan at an event the People's Daily billed as preparation for the third plenum. Some encouragement for the private sector is expected, but only within the confines of the party's economic leadership and official guidance about Xi Jinping's industrial priorities. The content of a forthcoming private economy promotion law will prove a revealing test for any promises made at the plenum. Xi Jinping wants to harness rather than unleash markets and entrepreneurs at this third plenum. He aims to use state power and public finances to direct them toward developing strategic technologies and producing advanced manufactures. As he told sporting goods executive Ding Shizhong, running a business or pursuing a career is not just about making a few bucks. One's duty is to dependably and completely focus on industry. Xi Jinping is especially concerned about successful companies becoming financialized conglomerates that lose focus and stop innovating, the fate of many U.S. manufacturers, including automakers. He reminisced about the clothing companies he saw as a provincial leader in Fujian and Zhejiang, praising them as focused, consistent, and strong in their main business. The plenum should also bring a degree of SOE reform. On June 11, Xi Jinping used a CCDRC meeting to signal reforms to the modern enterprise system with Chinese characteristics that aim to strengthen party oversight of SOEs. These would improve modern corporate governance and management of state capital to boost revenues, profits, and dividends flowing into the central budget. Less clear is how any such reforms will apply to private firms already concerned about increasing party involvement in their operations and markets. More intervention would further damage business confidence. Xi Jinping wants markets, entrepreneurs, and companies of all types to operate more efficiently within the party's priority guidance and regulatory constraints. The third plenum will therefore see reforms to build a unified national market and enhance coordinated regional development by cutting local protectionism, integrating urban clusters, and reducing logistics costs. Since the two sessions in March, Xi Jinping has emphasized the need to adapt to local conditions in developing NQPF, with localities specializing in certain technologies to reduce the inefficiency of them all rushing into action and creating growth bubbles in priority industries. Beijing insiders recently suggested to CCA that the plenum could see a further marketization of factors of production, such as making it easier to trade data and transact rural land, and reforms to streamline public ownership into factor markets and out-of-product markets. Subtitle: Fiscal Reform and Managing Financial Risk. Fiscal reform to address financial risks should be another important theme of the third plenum. Reducing financial risks has been a pillar of Xi Jinping's economic agenda since the 2015 to 2016 stock market meltdown, gaining an added dimension when the three red lines policy in 2020 began the painful unwinding of the real estate sector's massive overleverage. The largest risk is fiscal distress among local governments, which provide most public services but collect less tax than the central government. Many are reeling from falling property prices and costly COVID-19 containment measures. Localities running out of money and drastically cutting services or hiking taxes could impact social and political stability. Xi Jinping said in December 2023 that the party should plan a new round of reform of the fiscal and taxation system. The Politburo meeting in April foreshadowed the implementation of a local government debt risk resolution program and the rapid establishment of a new model of real estate development, both of which could be expanded at the third plenum. More support for venture capital and long-term patient capital for high-tech industries is also probable, building on state council measures. Beijing will avoid juicing the economy with massive stimulus, but recent conversations with Chinese officials suggested that the central government may issue more debt instruments, such as ultra-long-term special treasury bonds, to raise funds to cushion the property sector and help local governments overcome revenue shortfalls for public services. Xi Jinping is also reportedly considering allowing local governments to retain more fiscal revenues, such as from consumption tax and value-added tax. The central government may also help relieve local government outlays on healthcare and introduce a national pension scheme. Major tax reforms such as higher consumption levies or the introduction of a property tax are possible yet would likely be slow-walked given the impact they could have on economic confidence. Subtitle: Promoting Social Welfare and Ensuring People's Sense of Gain. Rising living standards help Xi Jinping maintain social stability and guarantee political security. At the Jinan Symposium, he promised to do more practical things that benefit people's livelihood, warm people's hearts, and follow people's will. He highlighted employment, education, healthcare, housing, and childcare as areas to find reform momentum and breakthroughs at the third plenum. One example will probably be policies to incentivize childbirth and reduce child-rearing costs. Further loosening of the household registration system also seems likely, which would help boost consumption and growth by enabling more urban residents to access public services and encouraging further urbanization. Xi Jinping is stressing that Chinese people must feel a sense of gain, from their country's development. Subtitle: Reassuring Foreign Businesses and Benefits for Some Multinationals. Xi Jinping has told French President Emmanuel Macron and U.S. business leaders that the third plenum will benefit multinational corporations and foreign investors. At the Jinan Symposium, he told Su Dequan, the China head of German engineering company Bosch, that we are committed to creating a level playing field and will not squeeze companies out of the Chinese market just because they are foreign funded. To the Politburo in January, he said that China must expand high-level opening to the outside world to create a favorable international environment for the development of new quality productive forces. Chinese interlocutors told CCA that the plenum will likely lead to a further reduction in the negative list for foreign investment and offer more incentives to do business in the country's free trade zones. Xi Jinping wants high-tech multinationals to help China develop through technology transfer, skills training, and competition for domestic firms, though his objective remains for China's national champions to eventually overtake their foreign rivals. Subtitle: Enhancing Policy Implementation and Cadre Management. Xi Jinping says reforms should emphasize planning and, more importantly, implementation. The decision published by the Third Plenum will detail the party's views on numerous policy areas, and possibly establish new institutions to coordinate policymaking, but will provide few granular details about specific policy adjustments. A key test of the staying power of any Third Plenum reforms will therefore be whether they are codified in legislation and incorporated into the 15th Five-Year Plan for 2026 to 2030, which will be substantively drafted next year. Xi Jinping has also strongly criticized some leading cadres for impeding high-quality development with old-fashioned thinking, suggesting that more disciplinary crackdowns could accompany his Third Plenum agenda. These sticks will be accompanied by carrots, however, as Xi Jinping told his closest colleagues last December that they must improve methods of appraising and evaluating political achievements to promote high-quality development. The recently published Planning Outline for the Establishment of National Party and Government Leadership Teams, 2024 to 2028, reflects a rising focus on competence as well as loyalty. Title 4, Personnel, Cleaning House in the Central Committee? A possible factor in the delayed convening of this Third Plenum was lengthy disciplinary investigations into several Central Committee members. Beijing fired Qin Gang as foreign minister last July following claims of personal indiscretions with potential national security implications. That same month saw the removal of Rocket Force Commander Li Yuqiao and political commissar Su Zhenghua, allegedly for corruption tied to nuclear procurement. Li Shangfu lost his job as defense minister last October and was formally expelled from the party for taking and receiving bribes on June 27. The CCDI opened an investigation into Tang Renjian, the then Minister of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, in May. The plenum is an opportunity for Xi Jinping to eject these officials from the Central Committee. Article 42 of the party charter says the Central Committee must confirm by a two-thirds majority any decision to discipline a full or alternate member that involves dismissal, probation, or expulsion. The Politburo can make such decisions, but in most cases, they must be retroactively endorsed by the Central Committee. The plenum will almost certainly expel Li Shangfu and could well remove the other four cadres, but the lack of official announcements about Qin, Su, and Li Yuqiao creates a sliver of uncertainty about their fates. It is possible, for example, that Qin is not expelled but put on probation, or that he is not mentioned because his investigation remains ongoing. We already know who should replace these leaders as full members of the Central Committee. Article 22 of the party charter states that vacancies on the Central Committee shall be filled by alternate members in order of the number of votes they received. Given that the first 159 cadres on the official slate of 171 alternates are listed by surname/stroke order, we can surmise they were elected unanimously at the 20th Party Congress, but the people at the top of this list are still prioritized for vacancies. The first 5 alternates are Ding Shangchuan, Director of the Anhui Provincial CCP Organization Department, Ding Xingnong, Deputy Political Commissar of the PLA Rocket Force, Yu Lijun, Director of the Sichuan Provincial CCP Organization Department, Yu Jihong, President of Beijing Normal University, and Yu Huiwen, Deputy Minister of Ecology and Environment. Another possible personnel move is the elevation of Li Shangfu's replacement, Dong Jun, to the party's Central Military Commission, CMC. The new defense minister has not yet been appointed to fill the vacancy that Li's dismissal created in the country's top military organization. According to Article 14 of the Central Committee Work Regulations, a plenum is the only meeting that can add new CMC members. Doing so would restore normalcy to China's military hierarchy, but Beijing has passed on opportunities to promote Dong to Li's other former role as a state counselor, so Xi Jinping could be effectively demoting the defense minister to punish the military for corruption scandals. Personnel movements have become increasingly unpredictable during the Xi Jinping era. The personnel changes discussed in this section follow a reasonable political logic but are subject to an opaque decision-making process that often produces surprises.